all of us at some point have taken running for granted, it can actually be quite scary.
Yeah, I mean, I went for a run with you last week and it was terrifying. I thought the paparazzi were going to stampede us.
Yeah, I missed the front page of the Times. I've interviewed the last 6 prime ministers, Rick Kelsey over here.
Why do I even bother telling you about the other stuff I do?
Well, because I don't think you do anything that's as important as this, the Running Channel podcast. And loads of people have things that they're scared about in running. We all have our biggest fears. And we asked you last week to email in so that we could talk about them, hopefully help you to overcome them. So you've done just that. We're going to read them out. We're going to talk about our biggest running fears. But we're also going to do all of the other great stuff that you've become used to on the Running Channel podcast. Let's go.
I'm glad we got through that because I just had a bean and cheese pasty and there was a bit of a flake on my lip. So
It was a pasty as well.
Bean and cheese.
Rick got a meal deal for breakfast and I'm not sure
that
how
weird?
I feel
Is that
about
weird?
it.
Sarah's not comfortable with it.
I mean, the fruit was fine. The orange juice made sense. The bean and cheese is really true the line. I'm going to hijack Weekly Catch Up
You've
because
got your notes out
I
already.
have so many things.
Yeah.
So I went and did the Vitality London 10K last weekend with Tom.
Yeah.
Met loads of lovely people. Shout out to Jack the cabbie who stopped his taxi at the bus stop to literally be like, "Are you from the Running Channel?" And I don't know why it was so much more exciting
Stopped
because
his taxi.
yeah, well, only he was at traffic lights anyway, but
I
like
love
stopped
that.
and was like, "Hello," and it was so much more exciting because he wasn't in running kit, and we were all like, "Why is that more exciting?" So if you notice us and you're not in running kit, please say hello.
Please say
it's
hi.
very exciting.
Yeah, because it's being spotted out of context.
Yeah, I think that's the out of
thing.
context
So
thing.
when someone said something to me and I'm in normal clothes,
Yeah.
like not Running Channel branded and not running kit, and I'm on the train and someone says, "Oh, I really like the podcast," or something nice like that.
It's pretty
that
cool.
somehow
Yeah.
is
Elevates it.
more exciting. But that doesn't mean if you're in running kit you shouldn't say
No,
that.
there were also
I like it when
some-
someone shouts at me and goes, "Are you that guy from Horse and Hound?"
No, he's not. However, there was a great comparison made of you yesterday.
Okay.
So we recently did a Strava art challenge.
Yes.
And there's a lot of chat amongst the Running Channel community of how people thought you cheated. And yesterday I was having
Are
a
you
great...
serious?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
no,
yes,
what do you, hang on. You look
I won the challenge.
Yeah, but you look outraged at the very notion that someone could accuse you, Rick Kelsey, with your
actually,
journalistic
so what-
integrity of
What,
cheating. But you have cheated before.
You have. Ben actually called you the Lance Armstrong of the Running Channel, which I'm not sure is a comparison that you want. But what
That's made my day.
What he was saying is, a lot of people think that because you went
He's
to
so
a big
cross.
open field, that's a bit. We're into entering the realms of cheating for the challenge.
Sore loser is what is kind of.
What Ben actually thought is,
Reverberating
had
around
you
my
gone
ears.
out, spray painted your face onto the field, because no one saw the grass when you were running.
As in, were you following lines
Yeah,
that you
were
had
you-
predetermined?
No one saw the grass.
No.
Go
As in,
back,
like,
go
you
back,
never-
and go back and have a look at that video if
he's
you've not
fuming,
watched it
isn't
yet.
So cross.
He's really
so cross.
angry.
I didn't draw anything. I didn't cheat.
All right.
It was just
But
a
you-
fair win.
Okay.
Okay,
There's a
you
couple
know
of
what?
things.
If you're content with that, mate, you're content. Maybe in a year's time you'll come clean, like you did with the pizza crust.
Can I just
The pizza wrap.
enlighten people to what these two are hinting at the moment?
Yeah.
About a year ago, we went to, is it Iffley Road?
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
the famous
Oxford.
track where
Famous
Roger
track,
Bannister
Iffley
ran
Road.
his sub 4 minute mile.
And we did something called, I think it was the Pizza Mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had to eat all the pizza and then do a loop.
Did you eat all the pizza?
And I revealed around about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago to these two
Yeah.
that I stuffed the crust down my underpants.
Not the usual meaning of the term stuffed crust.
And I think that was just good gameplay.
Oh, that is absolutely not good gameplay.
No, that's outright cheating.
We
I think that, in fairness, in this instance, doing Strava art on an open field, which actually is what I did when we did Strava art a few years ago.
Yeah, your
I think
thumbs
that's-
up was very good.
I think that's fair game. I think that's smart.
Thank you, Andy.
It's like when if you don't know the person's first name in a quiz and you've been asked to give the answer, just give the surname. Don't give the wrong first name. That's just good quizzing.
Clever.
So this is good. This is
That
good
is-
gameplay. I think.
That is
I'm on Rick's.
clever.
I'm on
That's
Rick's side
specific.
here.
Thank you for that.
Was that just a random example?
That was just a random analogy
All right.
that I.
Yeah.
that I came
All
up
right.
with.
Well, cheating aside, I also have a question.
Go on.
When I'm out for a run, and I was thinking about this week,
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of times where there's like a double set of like pedestrian lights that I have to cross.
Yeah.
So you might be like crossing one road and then you have to wait for the next set of lights to cross the other.
Yeah.
If you've stopped and I've paused my watch,
course you
would you run across the first set and then wait again? Or would you just walk across because you can't carry on?
I mean, I would try to run all the way across, but I guess if that's not safe and you've got to stop
No,
halfway,
as
then
in,
I
like-
probably would just walk can be really frustrated.
Fine. Rick?
I've begun stopping my watch a lot.
Oh no, what's
And I never used to be a watch stopper.
Well, let's talk about your running, because where have you got to now? You're progressing towards this half marathon. What's going on? I've seen some exciting stuff on Strava.
I'm up to 15 kilometres.
So what?
So
So
in
does that mean
training.
it's
15 kilometres are also a pretty punchy pace, considering you want to do the 21 at 5:55. What was the 15 at?
15 was at 5... I think it's
30 per
5:31, yeah.
kilometre.
Oh, so you're running these sort of easy
5:31.
long runs in inverted commas harder than you want to run the race.
Well, that's the furthest I've run since 2019.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
How did it feel?
It was tough. It was tough going. But I didn't feel... at the end, I didn't feel, distraught. I didn't feel like there was...
I'm distraught every day.
Have
that
you
I'm out
ever
with
felt distraught? I
Not
feel like you're
recently.
always 2 steps away from a spa, so you can't really be that distraught.
My leg felt good. My knee felt good. I mean, it was hard work.
Yeah.
But,
But the right kind of hard work.
the right kind of hard work. But, it's North London. It's hilly.
hilly.
There are people around my part of North London that literally need a Sherpa to take them to the tube station.
Well, it's interesting. You've introduced this one long run a week. And you're saying that's hard work.
Yeah.
You do a podcast with us and then edit that. That's sort of hard work.
What are you getting
So
to?
it's-
What are you
That's
getting
nice that you added in a second lot of 2 hours a week. That's hard work that you do.
Listen, I'm still going for 2:05.
Yes.
You
In-
also did a pretty rapid
in
5K
Oxford.
this week as well.
Saturday, what did I do? 23:14.
Very nice.
23:14.
And what's your best ever?
23:08.
Oh my goodness.
Wow,
Yeah, yeah.
6 seconds off.
But enough about me.
Says
Oh,
Rick Never.
Rick's he's bashing out the long runs, he's bashing out the 5Ks.
Well, I've got to do Andy. About 3 weeks ago, there was a dramatic rain shower that came down and encapsulated our imagination in the park while we were filming Hats.
So poetic.
Hats which are now live.
Yeah,
By the
Andy
time
gets
you
in
listen
my
to this,
diary.
You can
and
go and
basically-
buy these hats. Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry. Andy put in my diary exactly what I'm supposed to do on every day at a time. So I literally, I'm just told what to do. I wake
good,
up,
isn't
there's
it?
a note. Andy says, do this.
Yeah.
So
And
then I
Rick does
follow
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, how's your running going?
Better.
Nice.
So
Good.
it's all been a bit of a pity party for Andy for the last few weeks.
It has, yeah.
Yeah.
Although a lot of
including
people
me
liked
speaking
your
about
honesty
myself in the third
about in
person.
that video we did last week.
Sorry?
Yeah, thanks
A lot
so
of
much
people
for
liked your
everyone's
honesty.
comments on that. Like, we've all been reading through, and I think it came at a really good time. Like, a lot of people are suffering with injuries right now. So if you are, wishing you a speedy recovery, hope you're okay. And Andy is on his way to recovery.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, I think, in our biggest fears a little bit. Well, I think there's something that loads of people have spoken to me about since that video as well, is that feeling of you just, even once you come back and you've done all the rehab and you do get back to running again, the paranoia is real. Like that,
Yeah.
and also the phantom sensation of the same injury. So yeah, let's talk about that later. But I'm back. I've built up. I've been doing a lot of stuff in the gym. Rick's very proud of me, and or at least I'd like to think he is. And then I did 30 minutes in the monsoon rain at the weekend.
Oh no,
and it was
you were
cold.
out in the rain.
I didn't mind though, because I was running again. So it was sort of, I mean,
Yeah.
I had a rain jacket on and it had no effect. It was so heavy.
What's the point? That's just a waste of time running in a rain jacket. You're sweating, then the water's coming in
Yeah.
and coming out.
That's true.
if
You
it's
have
drizzling,
got
a
water
rain
from the
jacket is
inside,
side, yeah.
water from the outside. I mean, skin is waterproof. It depends though. If you're like out looking at a field, sometimes you
wasn't.
need
This was
that jacket.
And I live on sort of quite close to the top of a hill. So I was
Respect.
basically just doing out and back bits around loops that are as flat as possible. Again, injury paranoia is real. So I was like, I'm not running up a hill with a calf injury.
Fair.
So
Very
no,
fair.
I feel like, fingers crossed, I can start to build up from here. But this is the benefit of having someone telling you what to do. I spoke to Andy, my coach, straight afterwards, and he was like, "Okay, another 30-minute run next." I was like, "But I've just done a 30-minute run, so I'm good to go now. Let's do a half marathon."
How did you know that you'd left it long enough?
Because I've been working with a physio, they gave me some really clear tests to
Okay.
pass, and then they were like, "Once you can do this pain free." In my case, it was a certain number of weighted calf raises with a certain amount of weight on my back and some hops, some dynamic plyometric hops. Because ultimately that sounds like quite aggressive, but then every single step is a bit like you're putting quite a lot of body weight through it.
You know what? Weighted calf raises, even or unweighted, every single runner listening to this show right now, in the shower, do 20 on each leg every day. It's the simplest bit of S&C you'll do that you can add to your life.
Car phrases.
I'm a bit worried we're going to have lots of people emailing in saying they slipped over in the shower. So
Yeah, or brushing your teeth.
Hold on to
bit of
a
a
bar.
drier, safer. Hold on to a bar.
Strap yourself into your shower.
Step
Strap
one.
yourself
Hey.
next to your
Get
shampoo.
a bar installed in your shower.
Yeah.
Step 2.
safety disclaimer.
Yeah.
But we've kind of talked about injury. I think throughout my career, that's always the thing that could derail me the most and was a big fear of mine. We're talking about people's biggest fears, and we've got lots of lovely people who've emailed in with theirs. So should we get cracking?
Yeah, let's dive in. Real mix of fears here. So we're starting off with Emma from Bendigo. Is that how you say it in Australia?
I think it is,
Bendigo.
Do the whole thing in an Australian accent, Sarah?
I can't. My Australian's not that good.
No, okay, fair enough.
She says, I have a confession. Recently, at the start line of a race, I found myself engaging in a sock shoe. What's worse, I didn't notice it until much later. The ground wasn't wet or muddy.
Ah.
How do we feel about this?
Well, I feel like we should stop there, and Emma from Bendigo should get no more exposure on the running channel.
No, so the context is her fear. So it was a trail race. Recently, she DNF'd her first trail
Did not
race,
finish.
took a massive stack just short of 9k into a half marathon, scraped most of the skin off her knee, ouch, closely avoided stitches, and had a good go at breaking her wrist as well. Oh, that sounds painful. So her fear is she trips over a lot, all different surfaces, and wearing all different shoes as well, sometimes with others, sometimes alone. And the last few times have been hard and have really shaken her. So she's beginning to fear falling, and that's really affecting her and not enabling her to kind of enjoy running as much. So she's thinking about going and get a gait analysis done to check if it's like something that she can fix. But how can you help the fear of falling?
God, that's a tough one. Okay, so going to go a little bit deep to start off. So when I was 19, I had a rugby accident, which gave me a drop foot. So, which basically means, and I had the operation to try and get that movement, get that perineal nerve working again, so I could lift my foot, and it works somewhat, but I've got a completely dead toe, and my foot does drag a little bit, so I constantly trip, even just walking around the house, because I can't lift my foot properly.
We definitely don't trip over anything that's left on the floor because you're fastidious in your tidying. It's like nobody lives in your house.
Maybe that's
Have I got
why.
Yeah, I know. I genuinely don't know.
So I do trip up sometimes over it, but it's not a big deal, and I certainly don't worry about it. But I understand where she's coming from. If you've done it once and you've had this major injury and you've scraped all the skin off your both knees and you've almost broken your wrist, then you're naturally going to be worried about it.
I have wasn't a trail race, but I had this exact experience. So I did fall and break my wrist. We've talked about it on the podcast, I think.
Oh, yeah.
In the Commonwealth Games in
Aussie
Australia.
felled by Pom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Aussie fell by Pom, yeah.
That was the headline for anyone who hasn't heard that episode. That was the headline in all of the major newspapers in Australia.
Imagine if social media had been around.
I'm so glad it was. I mean, that clip would have been a meme, I think. But I was running with a cast on my arm because I'd already been tripped at a previous race that season on the indoors in the UK.
Gosh,
and I broke my wrist.
I didn't know that.
And then I re-broke it falling in the Commonwealths.
Do you break easily?
I don't. I mean, like you're running pretty fast and you're falling.
Oh, all right.
From
The Commonwealth Games, you're running pretty fast. No.
No.
So I feel like this is
I
an
thought they just-
unnecessary level of stick.
Anyway, Emma, let's get back to you.
But how did you...
Because I got tripped twice in the space of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I then had that paranoia too. This was a little bit different because it was about someone else tripping me, but I felt the same kind of. I felt phantom. When you're running in a 1500 meters or a 5000 or anything on the track, you're all so close together.
Yeah.
And I've got spike marks on my legs from where the scars where people you're running into each other all of the time, and the fact that people don't fall over is fairly miraculous. And so when you're running so closely bunched like that, I had this real phantom sensation of being clipped all of the time, even though I wasn't. And I found it. I just had to keep, I guess, facing my fear, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And then similarly, I actually often, if I was running on uneven trails, I would stumble quite a lot. This wasn't related to having tripped over.
You should wear shin pads.
I'm injury prone, it turns out. But I think when I get tired, my knee carriage, like how high I lift my knees, is quite low anyway. So when I get tired and a bit lazy and I'm not focused, and if you're running across ground with rocks that stick up like Emma is here in Australia, then you just have to be that much more careful. And I would find the front part of my foot getting caught on rocks just because I wasn't picking my feet up high enough when I got tired.
Can I give one other tip as well? Because she said She was going uphill and was going at a decent pace and doesn't know what she tripped on. One other tip that someone gave me, I think it was Tom, is always have like the 6 steps that you're about to do panned out, because I'm the same. Like I would always trip going like downhill or uphill on trail surfaces, but you need to think of it. I think it's like a climbing thing where like don't start bouldering until you know exactly what path you're taking up. Likewise, don't ever be looking down at your feet when you're running on like a rocky surface. Be looking like 4 or 5 steps ahead.
Yes.
And then your brain is like working it out, because sometimes if you're going really fast, you can't react soon enough, and then that's how you'll fall over.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I think looking further ahead than you think you should. Like everyone looks probably right down at their feet.
Yeah.
And if you look far enough ahead, then I think your brain can map it out.
Yeah.
We're pretty smart. So try that.
We're pretty smart as human beings.
Yeah, don't let it beat you.
No.
Because, it's like anxiety, isn't it? It's like if you have a moment where everything's coming down on you, if you run away from it, you'll never beat that fear. You need to face it. So keep running, look 6 meters ahead and get out
Sign up to another trail race, Emma.
Yeah.
Let us know how it goes. Right, now should we hear from Finley from Preston?
Yes, we shall. So he says, hi all. After being caught short on a couple of recent runs and having to shamefully duck into some bushes to leave a deposit.
Leave a deposit. Oh, Rick's already uncomfortable.
Rick's so uncomfortable. Yeah, you don't like toilet stories, do you?
No.
No, fair enough. I'm now crippled by fear that when I move to a much more urban city environment, which I plan on doing in the next couple of months, I won't have anywhere to seek refuge. How do I lessen the chances of growing a brown tail whilst running? That is a horrible, horrible description, Finley, but thanks. Cheers. There's also a follow-up from Paul from Newcastle, very similar, which I'll have to paraphrase given the language here. We're a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah.
So easy, he says, my biggest fear is trying not to poo myself. I literally plan my long runs around toilet availability. Nothing worse than having to clench so that you don't poo in your running shorts.
What's wrong with people? What is wrong with people? Like,
He does. Sarah, he does says there's
Sort
nothing worse
yourself
to have to
out.
clench whilst turtling.
Have you seen those memes where it's like heading out on your long run, and then it's just it's like heading out on your long run, your bum like 2k in, and it's just like a picture of someone like popping out for a sun.
You say, have I seen those memes? You know the answer to that.
Oh, no, you haven't, but they're great. This is a very, very valid point. But I would say being in a rural environment is scarier on a long run, toilet-wise, than being in an urban environment. Because unless you're running at like 6 a.m. and everything's closed, 9 times out of 10 in London, you're never that far away from a toilet.
From a cafe or a public toilet or something.
Yeah.
I think you've got to try and, I mean, my approach would be to think about training your gut in the same way as you would for energy gels and so on, so you don't get discomfort.
Yeah. Maybe you need to wake up a little bit earlier and...
Yeah, exactly. And go at home. Rick, this is going to be a silent bit of the podcast for Rick.
What's your advice, Rick?
Yeah,
don't have any advice.
What's the strangest,
You've got
strangest
nothing.
place that you've ever done a poo, Rick?
Have you ever pooed on a run? Have you ever pooed?
Children.
Have you ever pooed
such
yourself?
Children. No, move on.
Even the production team behind the cameras are laughing at Rick's discomfort right now. Oh my goodness, this is so much fun.
You've never felt this amount of discomfort on a run?
I don't have anything to add to this. I don't have anything to give. Give your advice and move on. Then I can talk about Susan.
Sorry, I don't know what to say. I think focus on training your gut so that you don't need to go to the toilet on runs.
Yeah.
I think it's the amount of there's a conversation here about the type of food that you're eating, the timing of what you're eating, fiber, all of that sort of stuff. The movement of running can speed up kind of digestive transit. So try to do something so that you don't, rather than tackling it by finding more places to go to the toilet, try to tackle it so you don't need to go to the toilet on a run.
Looped runs as well, always good if you're trying out a new gel.
Yeah.
So then you can loop back past the toilet.
Not pooped runs.
Pooped runs. Rick, would you like to talk about Susan?
Yeah, I don't know where Susan's from. I've got nothing.
Oh.
I don't even know country-wise where
Are you
Susan's
still
from.
happy to read out her email there?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay.
If you could,
You don't look very happy about it.
I think Rick's distraught at the last 5 minutes.
I'm actually very happy today. Today's a good day.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
right, go on then.
Okay. A fear I had when I did my first half marathon 18 months ago was, will I be last?
Yeah.
I'm an older runner, mid-60s. Please feature older runners in your podcast. And I'd already checked the last place time from the previous year. It was a hilly trail event, and the last person did 2 hours and 45 minutes. I didn't think I could do any better, so the fear was real. And she says, a few weeks before the event, I went out on a 16K run and it was awful. I don't know how I finished it. I'm pretty sure after that run, I was going to be last in the race, and suddenly it struck me. If I'm last, then I am saving the person in front of me from being the final finisher. And that turned everything around, and it seemed like a noble thing to do rather than a disappointing one. I feel so much better about the race after that. So this is all about a fear, essentially, of being last in the race. But she's overcome it by saying, well, actually, it's quite good that I'm going to save it from someone else.
It shows the power of reframing something in your mind. Like I talk about when stuff gets hard in a race, you can reframe that as deciding that it's your opportunity to do better than you've ever done before. This is the same thing, right? You've got this real fear and then totally changed it in your mind by reframing it as a positive. I'm helping other people out here.
I think
really
as
cool.
well, like the one thing that I would say, because this is always, I've tried so many times to persuade my mum to do parkrun, and her fear as well is always like,
Has she done it?
No, she hasn't. One day I will get her to do a like park walk and we'll do the whole thing together. But her fear as well is always like, oh no, I might be last. But I think look at what the race is offering you. Like all of these races will have kind of cut off times if there are road closures, or they'll tell you kind of like what the longest amount of time you can take. If you're within that time, then you are so justified to be there.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't matter whether you are first, 15th, last, like whatever that is, you're out there, you're doing it, you're allowed to be there. So like I think for a lot of people it's that feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be a burden, or like I don't want and I understand as well for a lot of people, if you come last in like a really big kind of major event with road closures, I would feel the thing as well of like, if you're the last person coming in and everyone's clapping you, it can be a bit like, oh no, I don't really want that attention. But like, own it. You've turned up, you've done it. That's incredible. And just celebrate it.
Yeah, everything that the Running Channel stands for is if you're out there running, then you're a runner and you deserve to be there. So we couldn't sort of say that more wholeheartedly that we're fully in support of Susan here. And also the fact that how this is probably the biggest fear that I get, that people have said to me, is exactly this. It's like, but what if I'm last? Like and I think please listen to this, and if you're feeling the same thing, if thousands of other runners around the world or in the UK or wherever are feeling the same thing, then you're not on your own, and it's a normal thing to worry about. But thousands of runners show up every weekend to different events, and you know, someone does have to be the last person to finish the line, but that's no less noble an effort than the other people in that race.
I think the Sarah's mum analogy is quite an interesting one, because if she turned up to do it, she'd be last of the people who have taken part. So
you've got to show up in the first place.
Showed up in the first because there's lots of people who go, oh, you know what, I will do that parkrun next week, but they never actually do it.
Yeah, what's the
Or maybe
phrase
they
of
come
like
and
you're
watch.
lapping everyone on the sofa?
Exactly.
So like you're turning up and doing it. One thing that Susan said as well is that she thought she was last on the day, but she didn't mind anymore, which I think is the like best thing that you can do, is just like drop all of those fears when it comes to the day itself, so you can enjoy it. And then she says, about 4K from the finish, I noticed someone a distance in front of me who had started to walk. I caught them up eventually and went past. They were fine, they were just walking. And then when the results came through, there were a total of 4 people who finished after me, but it didn't matter. I ran a half marathon and I celebrated that.
Yeah.
Really cool. Well done, Susan.
Great work.
Shall we talk about Catriona from Glasgow?
Yes.
Yes, and this. Let's use this to segue into our fears, and then obviously we're going to move on probably. So we are talking here. Catriona says, my running fear is having an experience like Andy had a few weeks ago, where you suddenly pull up injured during a run, either in training or a race. I had the same calf injury at the start of the year, which put me out for 5 to 6 weeks, and it was miserable. There wasn't any warning beforehand, and I was the fittest I'd ever been at the time. So I think that in that way, it came out of the blue, and that's really scared her because she didn't feel like she had any control over it. I suppose the way I described mine was actually it did creep up on me, and in hindsight, I was doing too much, burning the candle at both ends, all of that sort of stuff. But I've had this experience of an injury as well, and it's so often when you're in the best shape of your life that something like this. And there's a lot of soul searching and questioning that happens where you're like, could I have done something differently? Did I, why me? Why did I deserve this when I'm about to have this opportunity?
One, isn't it? The why me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She says that the injury is completely healed and she learned a lot from the experience. Still cross-training and religiously doing strength and conditioning, but always feels like she's kind of watching her back and waiting for the next injury, and that anxiety is what she's worried about. And she says, any tips for my broken brain?
That's so hard. It's so hard when they come out of nowhere as well. Because what I would say is like, we're always talking about like prehab and how do as much as you can possibly do to ensure that you're not going to be in that position. But I think as well, like we kind of need to normalize that injuries will happen.
Yeah.
Whether that's kind of tripping over, whether that is kind of a pre-existing niggle that gets a little bit worse, or whether it is something that's completely out of the blue. Like we are pushing ourselves quite hard as runners. Yeah. And so maybe reframing it in the like, you know what? At some point I might get injured and being thankful that, you know, I can get back to running at some point rather than it being like, that's it, it's over.
Yeah. And runners we're so hard on ourselves. That's the thing. So I think if you're listening to this, give yourself a break. Like we often feel guilty about having to miss runs or not doing the things we'd like to do in the way that we'd like to do them. And that's normal because it can be raining or horrible outside. You can have a rubbish night's sleep, family, work, all that stresses can get in the way. So we often feel guilty about stuff. So if you can just get up every day and you do your best in that day, then something happens, you happen to get injured, then give yourself a break, give yourself the time to heal and recover mentally and physically. Yeah. And then just pick yourself up and come again and listen to the Running Channel podcast because we are absolutely here to kind of support you through that.
And I'm not going to bang on about it, but I will. Do strength and conditioning work every single week because if you build your body up, it will let you down less frequently. I was at the tennis club last weekend and this guy comes up to me and he's like, Rick, I've done my elbow in. And he's the coach at the club. And
I love that you grabbed your wrist while you said, don't do my elbow in.
Oh yeah, did I? Yeah. But he was going like this anyway. And he's like, I can't get it back. You know, I just can't seem to heal. Like I'm getting old. I can't seem to heal. I was like, mate, you need to do some S&C. This is about 2 minutes after his 11-year-old daughter had just beaten me 6-love. He was like, oh, what, you mean every week I need to be getting out there? I said, yeah, you're a tennis coach. You just play tennis all the time. But actually, if you want to stop or get injuries less frequently, then you need to be balancing your time between all this high impact sport and actually building up your muscles. So you've got a base.
Isn't it so annoying though, how like we've chosen a hobby, which is really healthy, gets you outdoors, gets you doing all of this fun stuff, you get medals, and we have to go into the gym. Like I know I'm reframing it, I like the gym now, but isn't it annoying? Like, isn't that so unfair?
We've already
picked the good thing.
It's like the race day is the victory lap.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's not like, you know, like with a career, like, I'm going to go and study a degree. Some of my lectures are a bit boring. That's fair enough because like, you know, you have to take the rough with the smooth. It's a job. It's going to be a little bit hard sometimes. This is a fun hobby that we've chosen and we have to go and lift heavy things in order to do the fun thing.
But even irrationally, I don't know whether it's irrational or not, but sometimes if I am injured, like I have been, I'll watch other runners run past and I'll be annoyed that they're running and I can't.
Yeah.
And then I'll sort of be looking at them thinking, well, they've got terrible running form. They should be injured, not me. Not that I'm wishing injury on someone else, but I'm like, how are they bulletproof enough to not get injured?
Yeah, or like you're looking at someone on social media being like, I don't think they've gone to the gym this week. Yeah. I've gone to the gym this week and I'm still injured.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, I think we should round off by each saying, I guess, what our biggest fears are.
Rick?
Definitely. I have a fear still of something going pop. Because I always think back to February 2021 when I was doing intervals in the park and, you know, my knee did go pop and then, you know, 10 months on crutches. So I do have that fear, but I actually think it's slightly irrational now because I think, you know, my ergonomics are in better order and I put myself in a position where things shouldn't pop, but I still think at the end of every long run, phew, I got through that.
It was a big word. I'm not sure it was in the right context, but
No, it never is. Yeah. Andy, what's your fear?
Tundra of possibilities.
Well, I think we spent enough time talking about injuries, so I'm going to give a different one, but injuries right up there for me. Mm-hmm. I actually think my biggest fear is, and always has been, and probably always will be, letting people down. So the reason I didn't like my friends' family watching me compete is because it just felt like it was the extra pressure of the idea that someone might travel to start with, I guess, 20 minutes to come and watch me run, but then across the world or to another country to watch me run in a race. I was like, oh God, and it's crazy because there would have been tens of thousands of people watching on TV at home, but then I felt responsible for them as well. And I'd been worried about what they thought. And And
Oh, you mean like the expense as well of them flying out to sea?
yeah, I guess, and the fact that they were doing that all to support me, and then I
Yeah.
do, if I mess it up, then like I was just worried about what they were going to think about me and whether they would still like me, probably.
Who? Like me?
Yeah,
Back to me.
yeah. Well,
Did
no,
you
I
care
didn't-
about me?
I didn't worry about that as much because,
what about
as we
me?
know, you've never watched me run.
Hey, Rick,
Even when you came to Valencia
Rick
specifically to watch me
always
run.
talks about how he was like watching you
I watched
somewhere
you
at the pub.
professionally up until
Yeah.
you retired in 2017.
Yeah, no, I'm joking. But
Look
but,
at him trying to demonstrate facts. 2017.
But yeah, I would have included anyone in that.
They had social media
my,
then.
my friends and family in particular, and then
Friends and family.
and Rick.
You're
Just
you're an acquaintance.
It's just like a
An
dig. It's constant
esteemed-
dig.
No,
an
it wasn't from me.
esteemed
I was
colleague.
including you in friends and family.
Right.
So I was worried about what you all would think, and the fact that you might all have invested in this journey I'd gone on to try and be the best in the world. And then I had a physio and a strength coach and a psychologist, and then Andy, my coach. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt like I owed you all so much performance-wise. And so my biggest fear was letting people down.
Andy Hobdell. I know him. I've met him a couple of times.
Brilliant. He's a really good guy. Sarah, what's yours?
Oh, mine's probably like similar to the letting people down, but then to give a different one as well. I think I mentioned it last time. It's just like the not being able to do it forever. Yeah. I'm very much a planner.
Oh God, this has gone so deep.
Yeah,
you two.
no, I know, but I'm very much a planner, and once I've locked onto something, that's
Not being able to do it for what are you? So you're worried about getting to in your 90s and you can't run?
yeah.
You've got a while.
I know, I've got a bit of time, but I think
No
I don't
reason
know,
you
like, I
can't
think
run in
when
your
you-
90s if a physician says it's fine.
Yeah.
yeah, no, and I'm sure I can, but I think it's just it's like doing enough now that means that I can do it, and balancing the line of, I'm not a professional athlete, but making sure that I'm doing all the necessary things now that mean I can keep doing it for as long as possible. That's a fear.
Yeah. Maybe
Maybe we should talk about general life fears. I feel like some of my general life fears, you'd be like, what?
This is God.
Really?
I could talk about this for ages. I could talk. We're running out of time, but I could talk about this for ages.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is not being able to hit goals in every kind of decade or 5-year period of your life. So you're thinking, right, I've done this PB in my 20s. Am I going to be able to do that in my 30s? That's what you're.
Yeah.
And you in your head, you don't think you'll be able to do that. But there's no reason.
Yeah, no, I know, but I feel
you
like I'm
couldn't.
constantly balancing the line of I'm such a perfectionist, but then I'm also such a realist at the same time, that I'm constantly can we talk about, this is kind of segueing into the news. So we'll segue into the news to finish off. The Boston Marathon, you have to run a certain time to be able to qualify. They have just updated their qualifying time. So it used to be 18 to 34-year-old female, you had to run under 3:30. There's a little bit of extra context in that so many people do that actually you would have to run closer to 3:25. They've now updated the rules, the qualifying times. So it's now 3:25 is what you need to be able to run. But again, you're looking to be 5 minutes quicker if you actually want to get a spot. So
guarantee it.
Yeah. So if you're 18 to 34, sub 3:20, you're safe. You're probably in.
But the idea of moving that goalpost is they're hoping that most people at the moment, if people achieve 3:30, then there's almost no guarantee.
Yeah.
But
so it's
trying to
making
move it
it
to
more
help
realistic. Yeah. So obviously for a lot of people, having done that just as autumn marathon season starts, bit savage, but you're still
you need
working
to know what you're
towards
aiming for, I guess. Yeah.
How my brain works is that I've been thinking all-time life achievement goal. And literally how my brain worked is when I saw that. I'm not even training for a marathon right now, but I went from, okay, maybe my all-time life achievement goal would be to break 3 hours. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to be that fast. I don't think I'm that type of runner. I'm not that person. But now this has changed. 3:20. Maybe I could break through sub 3:20. Okay, that's going to be my lifetime achievement goal.
Wow.
Your head's a dangerous place to be in.
There's,
Yeah,
But I think
there's a
loads of
little
people are like
window
this.
into my brain.
I do understand it, but it's a bit like Andy's achievement goals. So Andy knows he's never going to PB in the 1500 meters again, even though he's still a young man. But he can, but he can still get PBs because Andy is just learning. He's on a journey in his marathon running.
Yeah.
So he can get PBs in half marathons. He can get PBs at 10Ks still?
No.
No?
That ship has
Oh,
sailed
right.
as
Is
well.
that fun as well? Oh, sorry.
No, whoopsie. No, Andy can't. But I saw someone who had a great piece of advice on this. I can't remember their name, sorry, but I do think they listen to the podcast. They were saying that every year they reset their goal.
Yeah.
So they'll have like their 2024 PBs, and then next
Yes.
year they'll have their
yeah.
2025, and they
Yeah.
just
Okay.
try and get
So history
faster
becomes
over the
irrelevant,
year.
and it's just you
Yeah.
against yourself in that
In that
12-month
year.
period.
which I
yeah.
love.
That is really nice. We've just been talking for so long.
Oh, right.
Let's do
Should
a
we
little bit of
wrap it up?
news.
Okay, no, we're allowed to do the news. Inga Britson tried to run a half marathon, and I very much enjoyed watching it.
Oh, that's very, very mean of you, because he didn't do very well, did he? I mean, let's be honest, he
but
ran
I
63
think-
minutes for a half marathon, which is not bad.
No,
but
that is
Oh my gosh.
literally mind-bogglingly fast. But what I really enjoyed is that I felt like when we were at the Olympics, we were all saying we would love to watch like I guess that's middle distance running 1500. We would love to watch those type of athletes do something that they find hard.
Yeah.
Because he's just broken, is it the 3 mile record?
2 mile, the 2 mile world record.
2 mile world record. He's been
And the
up
3,000
there.
meters, yeah.
He's been up there amongst like 1500 meter racing. And then after the half marathon, his interview, I just felt like was so relatable.
Yeah.
And
What
that
did he
it was something along the lines of like, you're all mad. Why does anyone run for this long?
Yeah, I see.
Like it's so hard.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's really nice because quite often at the elite end of sport, the interviews that you get afterwards are like very kind of like football interviews where it's like, yes, that was hard. The game plan didn't go quite.
Yeah, it's all
Oh,
very...
and these were much better than that, Sarah.
Were they? Okay,
Yeah.
maybe we need to dig out some of that.
I don't
but
think
it
they
just,
were.
It just becomes very like, yes, it went really well. I'm really happy with that. Or like, no,
Yeah.
it didn't quite go to plan,
Yeah.
but we'll go away and come back. Whereas I just loved the humanness of like, God, that was awful.
Well, for context, he's run a really fast time in the grandest, in like the globals. You know, to normal people, it's a really fast time.
Yeah.
But from his perspective, you know, he went off at 58 or 59 minute pace.
Yeah.
And then really paid for that. And from my perspective, like he'd literally 2 days before run the 1500 meter Diamond League final.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a crazy combo.
But
To
I
go
love
Friday
it,
night 1500
like-
and then I'm going to try and be the best in the world at half marathon 48 hours later.
Give it a go.
Yeah. Well, he did.
He did.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he trained specifically for it, that he could blow everyone out of the water.
I know, and I'm excited for the comeback because I just think there's also a documentary out about him now, and I just think he's so interesting.
Yeah, it's on Prime, I think. So there we go. Check it out and find out more about them.
And I think we've been wrapped up by Rick.
He's like, please stop.
Please stop talking. I've got to edit this. So that's all we have time for. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.